Monsignor Paul Tighe now joins us, and he is a priest of the Diocese of Dublin, which my mother will love to hear, and serves as the deputy to the president, Archbishop Celli. So thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure. People should know, by the way, before we start, that you saved me in Rome, and we were talking about this earlier. When I went over there for the conclave, you saved me, helping me get my all my press stuff, so thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
What do you think of the beard? How do you feel about that?
I'm not convinced.
Who'd you talk to, my wife or my mother, before you came on here? Oh, that's just not. Okay, well, tell us a bit about your work at the Pontifical Council for Social Communications.
Yeah, I work at a council that has a rather long and difficult title about social communications, but our essential work is really to be an advocate group within the Church to remind people in Rome and globally that communications is at the forefront of what the life of the Church is about. We would always insist that the Church was founded to share the good news, to bring the gospel to people. And sometimes maybe because communications is so much part of everything we do, we don't think about it enough. So we're there saying, look, communications is an important thing. We're inviting bishops and others to give it time, to give it reflection, to think how best they can use particularly the new forms of communication to best ensure that the gospel is present in contemporary society.
Now, you've been quoted, Monsignor Tighe, around many things, but one of the things that I picked up was you said, or you wrote, that communication of the gospel is at the heart of the ministry of a priest. Why is that so true, priest to priest?
That for me came when I was appointed to this job, and I was kind of asking, it's a kind of a job you say, why a priest doing this job? But a lot of it is technical. You need an understanding of management and understandings of various things. But one of the things from my own vocation as a priest began with a sense of I had a very privileged understanding of the closeness of God to me in my life. At a particular stage in my life, I had a sense of God's strength being something that supported me hugely. And my initial vocation came with a desire to share that with other people, that other people in their life journey would also have that sense of a God who is close to them, a God who will always support them and love them. And that's where my own vocation was born. So when I was asked to work more, let's say, formally in the world of communications, sure, I felt this is just an extension of what, as priests, we should be about. We're essentially about bringing, not ourselves, but the message of Christ, the message of hope, to people who really have a need to hear it.
And Irish are known as great communicators. How has this helped you in your role?
I'm not sure it has always helped me. The first word people say about digital media is they talk about brevity. And Irish and brevity don't necessarily go together. But I think one of the other things, though, Irish use communications not just to exchange information, but above all to form relationships. And I think that's the key thing we want to understand. That communications shares information in the life of the Church, but it also builds community. So therefore we're interested, as I was listening to the lady who rang in about her father who had died, who had followed your Mass, it wasn't so much the communication, the information exchange, but he became part of a community. And that's what I think we need to understand all the time. We build community, we build relationships, and we use media as part of that.
Now, one of the reasons you're here, aside from coming to visit and spend some time with us, which we're very grateful for,
thank you,
is the Catholic New Media Celebration, which happens tomorrow, Saturday, at the headquarters for the Archdiocese, the Pastoral Center. And I know that you have said, and I know it to be true in our own work here, it's important to learn to speak a new language if we're going to, as Jay was saying earlier, really communicate and reach out to young people. So your presence at this, I'm sure, is appreciated. And are you excited to give the keynote address tomorrow?
Well, yeah, I'm pleased to be here and I'm pleased to give a keynote address. But for me, more importantly, it's actually to come and listen. And being Irish, I'm not always good at that. But listening is about learning from the experiences of different people who are working with new media. What's working, what's not working, what has been effective and what isn't. So that we as a council get a feeling for what's happening around the world, and then we put people in touch with each other so that we learn together. Because new media is very different. We used to have a microphone, and we stood at the microphone, and everybody sat back and listened. It's not. It's much more participative. And our success in communication depends on us convincing other people to share our ideas or to comment on them or to add something to them.
Right.
And I'm interested in listening to the people who are doing that sort of work to see how we can do that together. People talk about digital as a kind of network society. The Church for me is a network. We're a community of communities. And it's to try and think how we can build our communications efforts to build on those strengths so we learn from each other. And, you know, part of that is being honest. We did this and it didn't work. Save somebody else the bother of doing the exact same thing. So, yeah, I'm here to give a talk and to give some encouragement, really, more than anything. But I'm also here to learn.
What are some of the opportunities that have been presented to the church as a result of new and social media?
Yeah, I think one of the things about Bob mentioned the idea that it's a new language. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. I think one of the opportunities we have is that it allows much more direct access. We can edit it ourselves, we can put the material out there. But there's so much material on the web, who's going to find what? But we need to then build the networks that allow people to have that material. I'll give a couple of examples. One is we had the Pope's Pontifex account. We discovered that the highest penetration of that, in terms of people who were on Twitter deciding to follow the Pope, was in the Middle East. That struck us as strange. Then we discovered that was people, maybe particular Filipino and other immigrant workers, in a place where they're a long way away from their community, from churches. That Twitter account, following that, gave them a sense of belonging to the church. Another example I give is one we've developed an app, the Pope app. Glad to see it there. Which means we can literally put into the pockets of people around the world the latest news coming from the Pope. Every morning we put on it the Pope's Mass at Santa Marta. And that's getting a huge following because it's getting people thinking and knowing what the Pope is thinking. And when people are now particularly looking to this Pope to understand where he's taking us, what he's asking us to change, I think it's great that we can give that directly to people.
You know, from County Meath to Vatican City, you've had some great opportunities as a Catholic and as a priest. You studied in Rome, as did I, which itself was a tremendous way to prepare for the priesthood. As someone who knows Rome well and the Vatican, what are your impressions of Pope Francis as a priest, as a Catholic?
I think Pope Francis is just wonderful. I mean, he's coming up and he's stirring it up. You know, it's fun to be around the place because a lot of the machine is breaking down. People just don't know how to handle this man who's going to do it his own way, who, as somebody said recently, he communicates by bombshells. You know, we discover afterwards what he said, and that's his prerogative. He's also, I think, saying to us as a church, stop looking in, look out. Look out at all the people who are with us in this world, all the people who need to have a sense that we're there with them, that we're supporting them, that we're not on our own, that we witness to the presence of Christ to so many people. And I think he's saying to us, look, get beyond maybe some of our own internal debates and let's say something that can impact and help people around the world.
You know, I think of St. Paul when I think of media a lot because he would travel around. Isn't this just a wonderful time in the history of the church, even though it is a little scary with new media and social media, to be out there and give the message of Jesus to so many?
Yeah, I think there's a great opportunity. We had a meeting with the Pope 3 weeks ago, and he spoke about social media. And his lines were very interesting. He said, look, he began by saying we should be there to bring Christ to people. And then he said, no, you know, really, we're bringing people to Christ. It's Christ is going to do the communications. He then said, our style in social media, we should be listening, we should be conversing, and we should be encouraging. Then he took this lovely theme. He said we need to warm people's hearts. But people are under pressure. It's difficult, it's sad, there's a lot of pressure. We need to offer hope, warm their hearts. And then he had this idea, when we bring them to Christ, we let Christ do the work. We're on sacred ground there. We don't try and manipulate it. We don't try and engineer it. We allow that just as Christ could enter my life and change me and help me and strengthen me, so he's going to bring and strengthen the lives of others. And let's have that confidence in the basic gospel and not just be depending on ourselves. And I think there's liberation in that. I mean, Christ is going to do the work. We still need to be professional, but we need to be graced. Know that it's God's grace ultimately will bring change.
Good advice.
Well, Monsignor, thank you so much for being with us and all you do for Catholic TV and all your help. Very much appreciated.
Great. Thank you, Jay.